Have you ever noticed how your posture changes when you're feeling stressed? Maybe your shoulders are riding up towards your ears, or you're finding you're clenching your jaw, or your breath is really shallow. Here's the thing, your body isn't just responding to the stress, it might actually be creating it. And in this video, I'm going to show you 3 game-changing insights about how your yoga postures affect your mind. We'll study the role of physical postures within the 8-limbed path. We'll understand how postures and mental states are closely linked together. And finally, I'll give you a 3-part framework to ensure that you're properly practicing your asana practice. But before we begin, I want to introduce myself. If you're new here, I'm Sushmita, but you can call me Sushi. I'm a yoga teacher from India, and on this channel, we help you master your mind through yoga poses that's rooted in an ancient system of Ashtanga Vinyasa. I've spent years teaching students who struggle with busy minds and restless bodies, and I've noticed just one thing. The way that we hold our body doesn't just reflect our mental state, it could actually transform it. And yoga is a complete system of therapy. It develops awareness and control over the body and mind, and has been time tested and passed down from generation to generation to help you transform your relationship to yourself and to the world. So let's dive right in and understand the role of physical postures. Firstly, physical postures help us discipline the body. And by discipline the body, I mean just helping us make it more supple and healthy and calm so that we can work on the deeper aspects of yoga. And these deeper aspects involve dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, which are the more meditative, advanced practices. And by training our mind in these simple, tangible tasks like pressing down your fingertips in downward dog or pulling up your hips, we then understand how to train our attention in a specific way that can then be applied to the later practices in yoga. So not only is it useful for creating like a healthy body and a clear mind, it can also be used as a model for when we are ready for these deeper, more advanced practices. In today's world, a lot of us are concerned with just superficial looks, but as a student of yoga, we begin to become curious about our internal situation. And by learning to regulate our nervous system and understand how we can shift our metabolism, we then gain control of our internal. And then we don't blame everything on the outside. We don't just say, I'm stressed at work, so I'm going to pop a pill. We begin to investigate the deeper layers, the cause that might be within, so that the surface manifestation of illness or disease doesn't show up as often. Before we can really truly understand the role of physical postures, we must zoom out and look at the mind-body interaction. In yoga psychology, there are multiple levels of functioning where the higher levels can both control and observe the ones below. So it starts off with the grossest level, the body, you're all familiar with it, and it consists of physical sensations and all the internal processes that it carries out without our even knowing. And in Sanskrit, it is known as the Shariram. Now, one step above this exists the mind. The mind, or the manas, has thoughts and mental processes, and it contains our likes and dislikes, all the things that we just feel. This is our feeling center. And finally, we've got the intellect, or the buddhi, which observes and controls all of these lower levels. The intellect is our higher reasoning capacity, and it actually exists to serve us in controlling these lower parts, but also takes a little bit longer to refine. So we start off with something as gross as working with the body and controlling and disciplining it first. As I told you earlier, when we work with the body with tangible little micro adjustments, we can then apply the same thing to control the mind and control the intellect. So how can we use our asana practice to control and regulate our mind? Let's take a look at the path to control. Firstly, it just involves the ability to observe. This neutral observation of the body in each position without judgment, without anything else, but just looking at it from outside of yourself to look at the posture and see if you can make these micro adjustments to bring it back into alignment. And I like to use drishti as a good example because I often ask you to maybe look beyond the mat or look at your tip of your nose or look at your finger. And this kind of observing of the body from a position outside the body, even if sometimes it's literally a point on your body, it helps you really neutrally stand apart from it without getting involved in the workings of it and stay detached while in each position. And when you're in each position, you'll notice if you do this well, you won't be so wound up or give up so easily, because it's like you're a teacher watching your own body doing the poses. And slowly over time, what tends to happen is you begin to predict your responses. So every time when you do the standing balance, you'll notice, okay, my mind is telling me I can't do this today, I need to get off, I need to go check my phone, I need to drink some water. Everything else except staying on the mat and doing the thing. And you'll slowly begin to understand when you can correct and shift those things on the mat and understand your patterns, then you can shift your responses. Maybe it means in that moment telling yourself, I'm going to engage my thighs a little bit more, stand up a little bit taller, and infuse this posture with a little bit more attention. And over a period of time, when you begin to do this, what tends to happen is that you start to gain more control. So you're not just reacting out of your impulses, you're now following the groove of your body. Think of it like this. Your body is almost a little bit dumber than your mind and your intellect is, so it has its own ways. And when you train it to step on the mat every single day and go through from a position of just feeling scattered to always seeing to it that you feel a state of calm, then it will almost guide you, because the groove of the body is really, really strong. And this is where the body has power. You can slowly control your entire routine, the way that you're thinking, by committing to investing in 30 minutes of practice, stepping on the mat, and allowing your body to follow its groove, follow its habit pattern. And through this, you can internally slowly start to understand your processes, your habits, and then eventually change your mind and change your life. So in short, it's really important that we focus on the body, because it can help us discipline the mind, it can help us prepare for later advanced postures, and slowly begin to have control over our internal processes and change our metabolism and feel different after practice. Now let's take a look at the relationship between postures and mental states. Our postures reflect our state of mind. So think about it. When you're sitting at a dinner table and you're just feeling small, maybe someone said something to you, you've just been like shoulders rounded, feeling this way. And then the next day, you notice yourself slipping into that posture and simultaneously replaying or rethinking of that moment at the dinner table. So while the postures reflect our state of mind, our mind or our feelings can also sometimes seep into the way that we're holding ourselves. So because the posture and the feeling sometimes become so fused, it can be hard to tell over a period of time if just sitting like this is causing you to feel small, or if the sensations of feeling small are causing you to just be really tight in your body and feel the sense of stiffness. The important thing to note here is that we can use yoga postures to unlock the body's wisdom. As we challenge ourselves to take harder and harder positions, we slowly begin to understand that the tension, all of that stuff comes to the surface, and then we can release this chronic tension through the postures, through the breathing, and through a little bit of adjustments and help from our teachers. And so it's really important to understand this cyclical relationship, because if we do nothing about our body habits, then we will continue to sustain and perpetuate these mental states far after we've actually experienced that mental state. And I hope that this lands well, because this serves as an important motivator for us to step on the mat, because in a way we are brushing our teeth or wiping the slate clean or allowing ourselves a fresh chance without carrying the feelings or the body habits of the previous day. And through systematically stretching and strengthening our body through these set sequence of postures, we understand the process of releasing tension. So the process of releasing tension has three main ways. The first one, as I identified, is through challenging postures, because they help us reveal the effects of chronic tension. So for those 30 minutes, you're almost restructuring and realigning the body so that when you walk out, you feel a lot better and you're not holding those same body habits after the class. The second is breath regulation. Turning into the attention of our breath is such an important thing on this journey, because it helps release tension in the posture. I like to tell people to take their mind and their body to the edge of the stretch so as to feel a good stretch but not experience pain, and then tune into the breath. This skill of breath regulation, I cannot emphasize enough, because I've been to so many classes where people tell me, wow, Sushi, I didn't realize how important it was to actually breathe right in yoga. And before your class, I was just breathing through my mouth and breathing through my nose. And after I learned the ancient technique of Ujjayi Pranayama, I could actually regulate my body and mind. And finally, it's the power of somatic work. Think about like massages or going to a chiropractor or physio. The physical manipulation aspect of when a teacher mildly adjusts you not to the point of pain can actually release muscular tension in a way that you may not be able to do yourself, because then they can show you the correct alignment in a posture and correct your postural distortions. So the process of releasing tension within a posture is through challenging postures. You can use your breath to get to the edge of the posture and get a little bit of help from a friend. Now that we understand what the link between physical postures and mental states is, we can turn to doing the work. And doing the work means starting off with awareness. We then slowly begin to realize how our anxiousness, our fear, our resistance makes our muscles strict and rigid. Next, we can work on a systematic method of stretching and strengthening to release these tightened muscles. When the pent-up tension builds up, we then use the challenging shapes, and slowly over time we can experience profound therapeutic releases. Have you ever heard of someone saying, I cried in pigeon pose, or I just felt like my hips were so tight, and when I took this deep, like hip opening posture, tears just started rolling down my eyes? It's this reporting that we repeatedly see as yoga teachers that indicates to us that there is something about the shapes that has a therapeutic releasing effect. But our practice is still incomplete if we don't concurrently work on our underlying mental and emotional issues. And this creates a well-integrated yoga practice. And actually, the yoga science has so many options for you to do beyond asana. It encourages you to study, to reflect, to meet your teacher, to ask questions, and just treat it as more than just a physical exercise of tension release, but to also investigate the mental and emotional layers as well. And that brings me to my final practical game-changing insight, which is the art of mindful asana. Now, an asana practice is not about forcing our bodies or contorting it in different ways into positions, twisting it like a pretzel, even though we see a lot of that on Instagram. It's through just actually self-exploration and understanding ourselves through these shapes. It's not just pushing through pain, it's creating space. When we begin to practice asana correctly, we see how each asana has a specific health benefit. Whether it's placing your heel on your stomach, or twisting, or following a specific breathing pattern, each shape or each effort has an individual way of healing and nurturing us. Our understanding of how to practice properly won't be complete unless we can see how our asanas affect our attitudes. Think of the last time you were in warrior pose. Nice and strong, Arya-like energy, you're looking at your middle finger, and you're feeling that sense of strength. These powerful, strong sensations also affect the way that we're feeling and holding the shape. Other postures, like your all-time favorite Shavasana, create in us a feeling of complete relaxation and ease and quietness. And lastly, if we did something like Padmasana, it creates something like a sharp, mental focus kind of quality. So each of the shapes that we make on the mat clearly affects and influences our mental state. If you noticed, the names of asanas are actually named after many animals in the animal kingdom because they each have a lesson for us to learn, an attitude for us to embody. And that's the role of asana. All of this knowledge and understanding would be a complete waste if I didn't tell you how you can apply this tomorrow on your mat. And I like to call this the signal from the noise method. Tomorrow, when you step on your mat, pay attention to the details. It starts with gently and slowly guiding our bodies into a shape and then asking these 3 simple questions. The first, am I making an effort? This isn't about pushing to the hardest or just doing Navasana until you feel so much pain that you can't practice the next day. It's about finding that sweet spot between effort and ease, between pushing yourself and also finding this ease and I like doing this posture. And this helps us remove us from our state of sluggishness or lethargy or slowness and shift us into a higher energy rajasic state. And then you're going to ask, am I able to breathe in this shape? So whenever you're doing a back bend, it starts to get hard to breathe. So I want you to really take a little bit more time and see, is my breath steady and even? And your breath is kind of like a thermometer for your nervous system. If you're breathing shallowly and you're breathing just from your chest, you'll notice your whole system is kind of agitated. So you're probably pushing too hard in that state. Slow down your breath, make it smooth and even, and then take the asana and see if you can hold it with this steady kind of breathing. And finally, you're going to ask yourself, can I let go of my thoughts? Can I slowly just stop thinking about the past, stop worrying about the future, and allow the mind to settle? Can you observe without getting involved in the shape? And like we talked about earlier, stay as that neutral observer so you can see the patterns, you can see the thoughts that are coming up, but not give it too much airtime, not let your mind just latch onto it and go with it. And then we can slowly reach that sattvic state, that state of complete balance through our asana postures. So on the whole, yoga is a complete system of therapy, and in the West, even though it's just associated with contorting the body into different shapes, in reality, it is a traditional and transformative and complete system of therapy which systematically develops our awareness and control over the physical body and our minds, and then we can slowly begin to transform our relationship to the world. So practice with awareness, make sure you're making your postures easy and playful and enjoyable, and respect your body's limits, because when you do that, you'll notice yoga's transformative potential. So guys, that was how to master your mind through yoga poses. To find out more about how to practice yoga in a way that's both healing and integrates the mind, body and breath, hit the subscribe button and make sure you check out my next video where I talk about how you can specifically learn how to stretch. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.